Aisha radiallahu anha is one of those young Sahabiya. She was very young. She came to the Prophet ﷺ's house. You know what the thing was about her was that she, like many of the Sahaba, she was very eager to learn. And she observed all the features of the Prophet ﷺ. She watched what Rasulullah did, what he didn't do, and she became one of the greatest muhaddithat, one of the greatest narrators of hadith. She narrates 2,000 ahadith from the Prophet ﷺ. And one of the things about Aisha radiallahu anha was that she loved, before I sort of finish before I can finish the talk, I must say to you that the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, one of the reasons why they were like this was the character of the Prophet ﷺ. He blended into people. Wherever they were, he blended into them. So when he was with his friend Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he blended into that age. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was 2 years younger than Prophet ﷺ, and he blended with him. But when Rasulullah ﷺ was with Khadija, who was 15 years older than him, he blended with her at her age. And when Rasulullah ﷺ was later on with Aisha radiallahu anha, who is many years younger than him, he blended with her according to her age. So she says, radiallahu anha, she talks about when Prophet ﷺ used to sit, and he used to talk about, Rasulullah used to say, my wife Khadija who passed away, she was a wonderful woman. And of course, a young Sahabiya, young woman hearing that her husband is talking about another woman. Ooh, man. Guys, never do that in your life, okay? Never. Don't even come back from another house and say that curry was nice. You'll be dead. Don't say that. See, they're not laughing. They know they'll kill you. Right? So here's Rasulullah ﷺ talking about another character and saying how wonderful she was. And obviously it's burning Aisha radiallahu anha. So she says, yeah, I know. She must have had like a tooth missing here. She was an old woman, wasn't she? She probably was getting a bit too old and so on. Now, how does a woman say that? Because of the character of Rasulullah ﷺ. He allowed that. He blended in with her. He blended. In fact, when he used to come, she used to get a kiss on the cheek when Rasulullah ﷺ used to come in her quarters. And he used to say with the beautifulest of smiles, he'd say, how are you, Aisha? How are things going? Are you okay? And so on. The akhlaq of the Prophet. And then, he used to come down to her level. Her level. In fact, the ahadith that describe the Prophet ﷺ by night, most of them we get through Aisha radiallahu anha. And he was very affectionate towards her. And without her, we wouldn't have any of that. But not only that, she grew up to be a woman of what? She was still young. And she wanted, just like the other wives of the Prophet ﷺ, she wanted to journey with the Prophet ﷺ. So what happened is that she journeyed with him. She was on the Battle of Uhud. She was there. What was she doing? She was serving water to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in. Now according to the different narrations, her age would have been at this time in Uhud, her age would have been around 15 years of age, or let's just say, about 13 years of age, or according to another narration, be 23 years of age. Whichever it was, she was a young Sahabiya who was carrying water while men are fighting on the battlefield and giving them. And if there were any Sahaba who were injured, they had the duty, the women had the duty to pick them up and bring them back into the tents to look after them. She had that with her. Why? And not only that, once Prophet ﷺ, he used to go out sometimes and he used to just go for a walk with a couple of his wives, sometimes one wife, sometimes a couple of his wives. He used to go for a walk. Astaghfirullah mulisab. Astaghfirullah. For a walk? For walk? How do you say walk? Yeah? Walk, yeah? This is our Prophet ﷺ going for a walk with his wives, a couple of his wives, or with one wife. And once, what did Aisha radiallahu anha, she says to him, she says, mention of Allah, she says, you know what, let's have a race. Just me and you have a race. Prophet said, okay, you want a race? Let's have a race. On your marks, get set, go. Both of them raced each other. This is recorded in the ahadith. Raced each other. And Rasulullah ﷺ beat her. Then, a few years later, I think about another 6, 7, 8 years later, she said to the Prophet ﷺ, on another occasion she said, Messenger of Allah, let's have a race. He said, fine, let's have a race. So they had a race. This time Aisha radiallahu anha, she beat the Prophet ﷺ. Allahu Akbar. It's recorded in the hadith. In fact, as being a young Sahabiya, once she put her chin onto the shoulder of the Prophet ﷺ. It's a hadith in Bukhari. This is the last narration I'll give you because time is nearing to Maghrib, plus you've got to see some of the books as well, and we've got to give up the theatre hall as well. This is the last one I will say to you, is that she had the chin of the Prophet her own chin on the shoulder of the Prophet ﷺ, hadith of Bukhari, and he was in his quarters of his hujurat, inside his, they used to have these curtains, and these were his little, you could call them compartments that he had. And from there they watched out onto the courtyard of the masjid, where there were some Ethiopians or Abyssinians who had come to demonstrate a war dance. It was just a play sort of dance of war. And they were demonstrating it, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was watching that, and his wife, beloved wife, Aisha radiallahu anha, she was watching it with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she was watching, and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was watching with her, until Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Aisha, is that enough? She said, no. So they kept on watching, and he said, after a little while, Aisha, is that enough? She said, no, Messenger of Allah, not enough. And she carried on watching with him, loving to test her love and the love of the Prophet ﷺ for herself, until she said that, you know what, now his shoulders must be hurting him. And then when Rasulullah ﷺ asked her, she said, that is enough, and they both came back into their apartment. Now what does that show? That shows Rasulullah ﷺ how he was with this young Sahabiya radiallahu anha.